Hello and welcome back to another video on TGM Guitars. Just want to first of all start my video how I always like to start them, thanking everyone that watches my videos, everyone who's subscribed to the channel. Currently on 137 I believe when I last checked subscribers, so we're well on our way to 200, which is pretty cool. It's nice to see people commenting and just interacting with the videos. So I thank everyone who's already subscribed, and if you haven't and you enjoy this video, then please consider doing it. Leave a like whilst you're at it and comment with any comments you've got, any suggestions, any criticisms. Just let me know. Just don't be nasty in the comments, that's all I ask. But anyway, let's jump into the topic of this video. So far on this channel, I've kind of been showing all the stuff that I use and doing sort of that kind of reviews, kind of demonstrations, just showing you how I use the products and why I like using them. So today I thought I'd kind of expand that a little bit. I know I've done the little mini series on guitars, which I'm still yet to finish. I've been through all my amps except one, which I still need to get around to doing actually. So that might be another video coming up in the future. And also kind of I did that 2020 gear overview and showed you sort of all of my stuff, the whole collection. So what I thought is kind of in the similar vein, kind of slim it down, and we'll do a video now where I just go over the rig that I'm going to be using. So my band Rerun have got a couple of gigs coming up. I think it's around October time's our first one, so we've got a few months left yet, and I've been slowly refining my rig, kind of getting it to the guitars that I'm going to be using live, the equipment I'm going to be using live, and just sorting the whole rig out and getting a few things sorted. This led to me getting a new power supply for my pedal board and things like that. So what I will do is go through my pedal board, kind of show you what I'm using, why I'm using it, show you sort of the setup I'm going with, what guitar, what amp, which I think you pretty much already know it's going to be the Vox. So I'll show you that, how I'm using it, and go through a few sounds and explain to you whilst I'm showing you those sounds of what I'm going to be using it for. We are a covers band, so it's kind of trying to hit as many trying to hit as many targets as possible with the sound and get in the ballpark. I don't go for absolutely identical sound to on the record. I'm not that kind of guitarist, we're not that kind of band, so I'll just show you and give you a few examples. But anyway, let's jump down and have a look at my pedal board. I'll talk you through all the pedals and why they've ended up on there. Okay, so I tried my best to get the best shot. I'm not a professional cameraman, so I do apologise if this isn't very clear. But this is my pedal board. So you've seen it a few times before on this channel. I've kind of gone over it, but let me take you through it in a bit more detail. So what I'll do is I'll just go how the signal channel goes. So starting from guitar, going out to amps. So we have this little box over here, which it's not too complicated. It's just basically one-to-one jack inputs in it. It allows me to use it as a junction box. It also has MIDI from when I was using my old Marshall. Ultimate lifesaver, so much easier to set things up, so much quicker to get going at the start of a gig. So I've got that. So the guitar comes into there, and from there it goes into the Electro-Harmonix silencer. The reason I use that is sometimes it can get a bit noisy on stage, especially if I decide I'm going to break out the Gretsch. That's when I start to get most of the noise issues, so that comes in very handy. When you're using high gain, high volume, you're always going to get a bit of feedback. That just helps tame it down and kind of control things a little bit. So I'm also using the effects loop of that. The reason why I'm doing that is it takes a little bit of extra noise out of my signal. So in the effects loop, that then goes out into this Harley Benton FXL8 Pro switcher. This is basically a 8 loop switcher, 2 independent loops of 4, which you can jumper to become the 8, which is what I'm doing. It also has MIDI trigger outputs, so you can use it to switch channels on your amps, switch reverb on and off, or in the case of the Vox, you could use it to switch the tremolo on and off. Now, that has a tuner output, which goes to my Korg Pitch Black Mini. Now, that's a solid tuner, very reliable. You can easily see it on stage when it's quite dark. I was going to buy the TT Electronic, oh god, what is it called? The Polytune Mini, but they didn't have them in stock at the time, so I ended up getting the Korg, and I haven't been disappointed by the thing. It's a good bit of kit. So the first loop has the Big Muff in it. So that's pretty much my go-to sort of fuzz heavy sound when I'm doing like grungy stuff. I'll show you some examples of sort of how that sounds, but I'm using that on, well, actually I'm only using it on one song at the moment in the current band lineup, and that is Come Together. We're doing the Gary Clark Jr. version, so I need to sound a bit more kind of fuzzy and full to kind of push that song along. So the next one that we've got is my Hotcake. So I did a review on all of my built pedals, so my DIY pedals, and this ended up on my board. So this is a clone of the Crowfer Hotcake. So this is the Hotcake with Bluesberries. It's got a mod in it and a couple of dip switches. I believe I've got it on the Bluesberry setting at the moment. So I use that for a bit more of a how can I put it, a trashier gain. So when you're talking your old 90s, and pop punk I use that for actually as well. It just gives a bit of a more grittier sound, and it's kind of somewhere in between an overdrive and a fuzz, so I quite like that one. And then next up, I'm sorry, I realise my hands are coming into the frame here at the side. I'll try and stop flapping those about. But anyway, next up we have the Super Klone. This is another pedal that I built from JedsPeds. Cool thing about that, you can actually go on their website, and if you find the listing for this, he's put links to my videos, so that is absolutely amazing and quite honoured to be on there. So thanks very much for that, Jed. It's, yeah, brilliant pedal kits, easy to understand, easy to use. So that's the Super Klone. It's basically a modified Klone style circuit with a few switches, and that's how I have them set. If you can actually see, and that's good enough on camera. But anyway, that's what I use for my main kind of rock sound. So anything that needs a bit of gain, a bit of grit. I've tried to set it so it almost emulates the Marshall. I know, trying to emulate the amp that I've switched from, but you'll understand when I go through it why I've ended up going for the Vox and end up using that. But anyway, next up is my Tubescreamer. So that is used to push the amp. Absolutely love the thing. Also use it for my solo, just to boost it a little bit, give a bit more mid-range. And yeah, since I bought that pedal, it's never left my pedal board, along with the Big Muff. It's just an absolutely brilliant little pedal. I would like to get one of the full-size ones one day and maybe mess about. I was actually looking at the Maxon OD, is it the 808, which is, I believe, a TS10 clone, and being a massive John Mayer fan, that's probably the one I'd want to go for, simply because he uses that style of circuit. No more than that. You can already tell I'm a bit of a fanboy by the next pedal in the chain, which is my May Boost. So this is a copy of the TB83 by Pete Cornish. This was bought from Fuzzdog pedals. It's another kit, so I built it up myself. Very simple. If you want to get started on a good kit, a good beginner kit, then I would recommend going for something like a treble booster. It's not a very complex circuit. So that you can probably guess, I use that for Queen. So we do Tie Your Mother Down in the set, and that is the pedal that I use for that. So I'll mention first of all these are actually going into the front of the amp. I did used to use the effects loop on the Marshall, but these are all straight into the front. Now next up we have the MD500. Now I've got this running in the twin mode, so it can do 2 effects at a time. This basically takes up 2 loops on the second part of the loop. As I said before, it is 2 split 4s, but I've jumpered them over here to make it an 8-way looper. Now with this is what I use for every single modulation sound. I've never looked back since I bought this. It's got so much in it. I haven't even explored all the options. I haven't even tweaked all of the parameters. I've just found some sounds that are good, and it's great to have them all in one pedal. And attached to that, I've got this dual switch, which basically just switches it, which for some reason, and I don't know why, when you switch, it goes up 2 at a time. Unless you go into the edit menu, reset basically the switching options, and then it does 1 at a time. I can't explain to you why. I don't know why. It's just basically a couple of momentary switches. So that's all that does. And yeah, basically from that, we've then got the output of this looper. So everything's running straight through here. Allows me to switch multiple effects on at a time during a song. means that I don't have to tap dance as much. There's still a little bit of footwork needed, but it's nowhere near as bad. Now from that, it goes out back into the silencer. So it goes into the return of the effects loop, and then out of the silencer, we go into the Bigshot ABY. Now the reason why I've got that on my board and the reason why I'm using it, you will have seen this a little bit if you watched my gain shootout video on the Vox, is I'm using both channels of the Vox. I'm using the standard and I'm also using the treble boost. So this allows me to switch between the two. Now you've got out A and B again into my junction box, which then come down this cable snake that I made with some sleeving, basically just to hold all the cables together and make it a bit easier. When I had even more cables, when I was using the Marshall, because I used the effects loop, it was three signal cables and then MIDI, so it's quite useful to have that. I've only got 2 running through this at the moment, but it's nice to have it all contained and all tidy. You don't have to tape cables together at gigs. You just roll this thing out and off you go. But that's my pedal board. I'll show you some sounds from it in a bit. As far as the amp goes, it's a Vox AC30C2. And yeah, well, it is a Vox AC30C2. Right, I just had to double check. I forgot for a moment there. Nothing too fancy on that. There's no point me going over it. As I said, I've got it going into the, I've got the 2 outputs, which I've handily color coded, going into the 2 different inputs. And what I will mention whilst I'm here, this is all powered by the, I'll show you. Just do that so I can tip it up. Under here, I have got a Onespot Pro from Trutone. This is CS12. It's a total of 12 outputs. They're all running at 9 volts. I've got the converter so I can take the 18 volts down to 9. And as you can see, I've tried my absolute best at cable management on this. Sat down, redid all of the cabling on it. You can even tell I had to butcher one of my spare fender leads, and I need to kind of get that down a little bit and keep it down there. There we go. Stay there. That'd be nice. I don't know if I'll replace those at some point. They do look a little bit out of place, but yeah, cable management is quite solid. It all goes in a flight case anyway. So yeah, that's my pedal board. We might as well jump to some sounds and I'll show you the 2 main guitars I'm using. Okay, so probably no surprise, this is my #1 guitar that I'm going to be using for all of my gigs. Get most of the sounds out of this. I did go over this in a video of its own, and it is my 2016 Gibson Les Paul Studio Tribute 50s. Still a mouthful to say. I have put the pickguard back on it. Can't remember if the video had the pickguard on it, but that's a choice I've made. I went for so long with the sort of slash look, where it's kind of the pickguard missing. And yeah, so I will show you the bass sound. I did call it Edge of Breakup once, and somebody commented saying that's way more than Edge of Breakup. So I'm just going to call it the bass sound rather than sort of start any debates. It is a little bit crunchy. I like to play with the volume quite a lot. It's something I've got into through playing gigs actually. I never used to do it. I always used to rely on the pedals and pressing buttons to get more distorted, cleaner sound or cleaner sounds. But now I play about with the volume control, which to the detriment of this guitar, I had to clean the volume controls out because they get quite messy. But anyway, this is the bass sound. I will also throw on some different effects with the MD500. Do have to apologise, my holder broke for my phone, so I can't have a pedal cam. What I might do is take a picture and just sort of highlight things and do some masking when certain things are on, and have the sort of customary in the corner where it tells you what's going into what and where that's going. But anyway, this is my bass sound. So yeah, it's a little bit gainy, but I can easily sort of clean it up and get those lovely Vox. Those lovely Vox chimey sort of clean sounds. So what I'm going to do now is chuck on, what should we go with? I've got these all set up for different songs, so they're not going to be absolutely perfect. I'll tell you what, we will go with my setup that I have for You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette, one of the songs that we do. So we'll start off with a chorus. I'm making this up as I go along, so I do apologise again, once again for my terrible playing. But anyway, that's my chorus sound that I use for that song. I've got a few other programmed in here, but I won't go through all of them. It's a bit too much to go through everything. One of the other effects I use on that song is the slicer, which gives a nice sort of rhythmic tremolo that cuts in and out. So obviously I don't want to copyright strike myself, but it gives that kind of feel to it. I'm not going to play any more than that because of, as I said, copyright. I don't want to get loads of copyright strikes on here. So what else do we have here? I have an overtone set, which along with a chorus, so this is two effects now, kind of almost creates a 12 stringy sort of vibe. It's not 100% 12 string sounding, but it gets the point across. So it's got a little bit of chime there. It does sound, I need to tweak that a little bit, but I use this for crash, so. Mainly single pick kind of bits. Now I'm not going to play, again, any of the actual song. So that's another one I use, as well as, we'll get this one out of the way. We do Paradise City. So I've got a bit of an octave going on using the overtone setting on the MD500. So I use that for the first part of the solo in Paradise City, and yeah, does what I need it to. What else on there? I've got a rotary because we do Just Like a Pill by Pink, so it gives kind of a washy, they call it a church sounding tone in my band, so it's a bit of a warbly one. And then I've just got my settings, which I'll come to when I switch over to my second guitar. So that's clean with a couple of the MD500 effects. I don't tend to use them too much on distorted sounds, except for obviously the solo of Paradise City, because obviously all you need distortion with that. So what we will do now is go on to the Tubescreamer sound that I go with. So I've got that to just push it a little bit more. I'm going to turn the tone a little bit up, just a little bit. It just kind of takes the amp to the next level, not too over the top. What we'll actually do is turn the reverb on the amp. I completely didn't realise that's off. So yeah, it's a little bit close to what I'll be using live. So yeah, that's what. That's kind of my first stage, and then on from that, I just get a little bit more wild. So what we will do now is I will take you to the Hotcake sound. Now, as I said, this is more for pop punk, a little bit of a grungy sound. It's a bit of that ratty sort of sounding, almost cross between overdrive and fuzz. So you can tell it's just power called heaven, that one. And then you combine that with a Tubescreamer for the crazy lead sound. You can tell there's a lot of noise coming through. So switch the silencer on. I don't know what that was, but that is the solo of the Hotcake setting. Now, we will move on to, sorry, there's a lot of clicking going on here, the Klone setting. So silencing can come off. This is my main rock tone. Absolutely love it. So that's what I basically use for almost everything. And then stacking the Tubescreamer on top of that. Again, fair bit of noise. Playing really sloppy today, but who cares? This is just sort of the sounds that I use. That is my main solo sound. I do have the MD500 patched into there if I wanted to put some effects on it, but I don't tend to do that too much on the more distorted sounds. So I think that is almost it for what I use this guitar for and with these pedals. Let's just go on the muff for a little bit. That just sounds terrible. I will never say that again. Now with this, I do tend to switch it over to the other channel. Gives it a bit more fullness. So I'll keep the silencer on. I'll use this for Come Together. If we add some more grungy stuff in the future, then I'll probably use it on that. But this is what this sounds like. So again, it's just a sound I like playing with. I do have the tone quite up there because Obviously using the normal channel on the Vox is quite dark and quite flubby it can be, so have that up there. And yeah, I only really use that on one song at the moment. I will also mention the songs that I'm playing for most of these are songs from my old band, Off Topic, kind of riffs written by me, so I might as well play them because at least I put some thought into those, hey? But yeah, that's my Big Muff sound, and then solo Big Muff sound, just add the Tubescreamer in, pushes it. So yeah, it just kind of pushes it a little bit more. I'm not too keen. I don't really use that. I probably just control it with the volume and have a little less Big Muff when I'm playing choruses and then wind it all the way up. I need to find something that kind of accentuates that a little bit better when playing solos, but that's what I have at the moment. Now that's pretty much it for the sounds that I use with this guitar. I did say I was going to mention, I've mentioned a few songs here and there what I use it for, but all you need to know really is that Super Klone is my main sound. Hotcake's just for a little bit of grittier kind of distortion stuff, and the clean sounds I usually chuck effects on. I'm not a big user of just standard cleans, if I'm honest, although a few songs call for it. But yeah, that's the Les Paul sound. So we'll jump over to the other guitar I use and I'll take you through. I only really use two sounds with it, so let's go do that. Okay, so you knew it had to feature somewhere. This is my Brian May Special in the white colour, so you can't really call it a red special, but yeah, it's the other guitar that I use. Now I did mention that we do Queen, therefore it's quite fitting I use this. It's also for anything that gets put in the set list that I need to use a tremolo arm on. We've got one song currently, which is Wishing Well. We're doing the Gary Moore version, so you kind of need that. And that's what I use this for, just stupid stuff like that. So that is with the Klone. With this, I do tend to play about with the knobs a little bit. That's how Brian uses it. Now, it does sound obviously quite a bit different to the Les Paul, but I sometimes feel like playing different songs on this. I might just go, you know what, I don't feel like changing right now. I'm going to play this for another song. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. They're the risks you take when playing live music. But anyway, that is one of the sounds I use of it. I do use some of the others if I decide to play a song that calls for it. This sounds particularly nice on a completely clean with a little bit of chorus, which, well, it's how Brian uses it. So. Got that little bit of chime to it, which just, yeah, it's just a nice sort of chimey sound, depending on how you set these switches. Of course, there are a lot of switches to mess about with live, I will say that, but yeah, that's with my Brian chorus setting on. Now what I'm going to do now is kick it over to the standard channel and put on the May boost, if I can find it. There we go. And as I said, we do Tie Your Mother Down. And this is the guitar I use for it. Wouldn't use any other. For a Vox, treble booster. So yeah, and then you turn it all the way up and it gets in. I mean, I'm not even going to try and explain the vibe I'm going for here, you can tell with that sort of song. But yeah, I'm a massive Queen fan, as you can tell by my t-shirt and the guitar and the amp and the picture of Brian on my wall. But that's just a brief overview. I say brief, this has ended up being a long video, so if you've managed to make it this far, then fair dues. I will put sort of tags in the descriptions people can jump through, but yeah, that's pretty much what I am planning on using live. Fingers crossed nothing happens. If I even cross my fingers, I've got a bloody pick man. Fingers crossed nothing happens and they don't end up cancelling things and closing down pubs and clubs and all of that. But we never know at the moment with the sort of evolving situation. But anyway, yeah, that are sounds. So I hope it's been sort of interesting. I know it's been a bit of a long one, probably clocking in over half an hour, probably getting on to 40 minutes at the moment, but you know, it takes a little bit of time to go through all the sounds that I use, and I hope it's giving you an insight as to how I sort of plan things and go into gigs going, right, I know I want this sound for that song, this sound for that song. And it makes for quite a good sort of setup if I want to drag a song in or chuck one out. It's quite a good rig for my playing style and the kind of songs that I play. So other people's taste might differ. You might think that sounds absolutely rubbish, which I will sort of say again. I've said this in previous videos. I am not a sound engineer, so I do apologise if sometimes the videos sound a little bit tinny. Or so. I'm working with the best I've got. I've got quite bassy monitor speakers, so sometimes it comes through a little bit different on phones and things. But what I will say is put some headphones on, listen to my videos, and then it might be a little bit better. But anyway, I will stop rambling now. As I said, hope it's been interesting. Leave some comments. You might think of some things that might be better off in my rig that I can try out in the future. But anyway, comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you made it to the end, then well done to you. And I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.